Today, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell blocked an effort to increase direct payments in the COVID relief bill to $2,000. As a growing number of Republicans voiced support for the larger checks, McConnell would only say the Senate would start a process to consider bigger payments. He also announced the Senate would vote tomorrow on whether to override President Trump's veto of a major defense policy bill. Joining me now is Virginia Democratic Senator Tim Kaine. He sits on the Armed Services, Budget and Foreign Relations Committee. Senator, good to have you in your casual Tuesday attire. Let's talk about the defense bill, because the president vetoed it, and he used two excuses for it. One was Section 230, talking about social media companies, and the other one was that he didn't like the renaming of bases from Confederate soldiers to other names. And I think there are people out there who kind of scratched their head and said, does he really care that much to veto the defense bill over those two things? And you brought up an interesting alternative on Twitter today, talking about a bill that was tacked on to the NDAA. Will you explain?
Absolutely, Katie. Yeah, the president has said, the Confederate provision he doesn't like. It doesn't have Section 230 reform. He also said the NDAA is too soft on China. To the contrary, it's very tough on China. But what the president didn't mention is something in the bill called the Corporate Transparency Act, which requires corporations, when they incorporate, and then every year when they re-up with the states, to fully disclose what's called their beneficial ownership. Who owns the corporations? In many states, it's easier to get incorporated than to get a library card in terms of the amount of information you have to give. And what we find is that crooks, money launderers, traffickers, foreign agents often use shell corporations in the United States as places to park their assets. And so in the defense of our nation, we added the Corporate Transparency Act in the defense bill so that we can dig into these corporations and find out who really owns them. The president hasn't said this, but as somebody who has dozens or hundreds of corporations and who fights really hard to keep any information from getting out about his own personal finances, I wonder if this is the real reason he vetoed the bill. He is against the kind of transparency that will help us uncover nefarious activity that we should be fighting against to defend the country.
And interestingly, this is not something that was partisan. This is something that's been building a bipartisan coalition for some time now.
Absolutely. In both houses, very bipartisan. Also, a huge involvement of stakeholders, bankers, chambers of commerce, et cetera. We had to get the regulations right and while to find the right balance. But, in the banking committee in the Senate, both the lead Democrat, Sherrod Brown, the lead Republican, Mike Crapo, solidly behind this compromise. It is a bipartisan bill, but it will be good for the country. I wonder if the president looks at it and says it's something that he's afraid of, and that may explain the veto, that the historic veto he did. As you know, this bill passes every year. This will be the 60th year in a row. No president has ever vetoed it.
So interestingly, the veto has put Senate Republicans into a tough position, because now they have to not only override a Republican president in the final days of his office, of him being in office, but they're also forced to potentially contend with a vote on whether to increase direct stimulus payments to $2,000, which the majority of the Republicans in the Senate had opposed. There's a debate on the floor right now. You can see it at the bottom left-hand side of our screen. Dick Durbin is speaking. What exactly are Democrats doing to try and force this issue?
Katie, the vote on the override the president's veto is what's called privileged. So we will have to vote on that, and we will override the veto. We have to, and we have to do it before the new Senate is sworn in on January 3rd. What Democrats would like is to also have a vote on the $2,000 stimulus. The president wants it. It passed in the House with a strong bipartisan vote. I believe nearly 45 Republicans voted for it. In the House, we have Senate Republican colleagues saying they'll vote for it. So we're guaranteed a vote on the veto override. We're also pushing to get a vote on the $2,000 economic relief payment to families.
We try to understand the reasoning that Mitch McConnell is deploying behind the scenes all the time? As somebody who is one of his colleagues and has worked with him for some time now, when he got onto the Senate floor at noon today and he mentioned the three things the president wanted considered when he signed the stimulus relief bill. One of them was Section 230. Another was the direct stimulus payments. And there was a third, which is escaping my brain right now. It was election fraud. That's the point I was moving towards. Did you get a sense that Mitch McConnell was going to try to do something with all three of those to put Democrats into a tougher position?
It's possible, Katie. Senator McConnell, agree with him or not, he knows this process very, very well. But what we're doing is just basically saying, hey, vote on what the president wants. The president says raise $600 to $2,000. The House just passed it with Republican votes. Put it on the floor. If you want to vote against it, vote against it. But we think it ought to just be a simple up or down vote on the $2,000. And that would be the vote we cast this week together with the veto override. Now, this is going to play out. All senators are returning tomorrow. And we know that the new Senate gets sworn in on Sunday. So between Wednesday and Sunday, I think you're going to see a lot of twisting and turning. But the good news is on both of these issues, there's a bipartisan compromise that we want to override the president's veto so that we can fund our nation's defense. And there's growing bipartisan support for the notion of increases to the stimulus payments people clearly need after this most difficult year.
Do you support Bernie Sanders filibustering the NDAA in order to force a vote on the stimulus?
My understanding is Bernie's not saying we're not going to have a vote on the NDAA. He's just trying to insist that we need a vote on the 2000 as well. And I strongly support both. We have to override the president's veto before January 3rd. We can't afford not to have defense. We can't afford not to move forward on this racial justice improvement of renaming bases. This is military pay raises, military housing improvements, mental health for our soldiers and service members and spouses and veterans. So we have to do that. But if we can get the vote on the $2,000 stimulus, we should certainly try. That's what the American public would want.
Odds on it happening?
I think the odds are high. Well, it's 100% that we will vote on the veto override, and I think it's 99.9% that we'll override the president. I think the odds are greater than 50-50 that we will get a vote on the $2,000 payment. What Senator McConnell might wrap up in it, as you suggest, well, we'll know more tomorrow. But I think the odds are greater than 50-50 because, look, the American public wants it. So does the president, and the House vote to do it was bipartisan.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.